Hey everybody, this is Ryan Deal with 605 Sports. We are here with Heath Nimke and Cole Larsch with LiveTicket.Tv. We're here to talk some high school postseason basketball. Great basketball action on the docket here coming up this week. We got boys and girls postseason games Monday all the way through Saturday and everything. So this will be a fun week for everybody involved in high school sports in South Dakota. Before we talk about some boys action here with region action starts this week for the boys. We got to touch on last week with some of the girls. Cole and Heath, you guys had the call of the game of the year so far with T and Vermilion double overtime game. T pulled that one out. Heath, why don't you talk a little bit about that game a little bit?
Yeah, how crazy was it that we talked about last week, that we felt like it was going to be a perfect storm leading up into it and everything like that. It's so funny because I happened to be out, had some meetings actually in Vermilion with some people, and everyone had that small murmur going around because everyone was nervous. Everyone was scared of what could possibly happen. Vasika's back, and someone kind of asked me quietly behind the scenes. I said, what do you think, Heath? And I said, Vasika and get ready for Grant. They're both going to have big games. We just have to be able to counter that. And I say we, as in Vermilion, covering Vermilion sports throughout the season. And I said, you got to make sure you stop it. You got to make sure you eliminate it. And they shut down Vasika great in that first quarter. I mean, 6 points. You would say, you betcha, we can take that. She's on average for 24 points. But we just have to make sure Grant gets slowed down. And all of a sudden, they both got going in that second quarter, down at halftime, hit some big shots in the third quarter, all of a sudden take the lead, open it up. And I even mentioned in the broadcast that 11 points, 6 minutes left in the game. I didn't think it was over with by any means, but I felt comfortable. Vermilion had been that situation all season long. I said, you know what? The big moment situation, they've risen all season long besides the Hamlin game. They're A-okay. They got this. Then they decided to let Vasika get open in the corner and start shooting threes. You can't allow Katie Vasika to do that. She hits them. All of a sudden, we have ourselves a ball game. And then I would say in overtime. I mean, I think overtime was won in that first minute. It was who could score first and who could grab the momentum right away. And in overtime 1, we saw T do that. Vermilion clawed their way back. Overtime 2, T area did the same exact thing. Vermilion kept it close, had a chance to win at the end. People will shout, was it a foul or not? Heard it from a coach as well who said, catch it cleanly. There in the last 12 seconds for Casey Hansen to make a move. You have a chance at going up and drawing a foul, but it was never caught cleanly. There was a lot of fumble in there, and it played out for T area. And by the way, hats off to T area. We thought they could be a dangerous team. As I was saying in the broadcast, this is why we got to go to a Sodak 32 for at least Region 4, because in T area is going to be a great team. We don't know, of course, the drawings right now. Last time I saw could be a potential against Wagner. I go back to my last week's conversation, said the big 3 is going to be in trouble. I still stand by that statement. Now, with one of the big 3 gone, Wagner, if make it, they're certainly going to be tested in state, but really exciting game. I didn't realize it was as big as it was until it was over with, but fun to see. And that's the DAC-12. That's the Region 4A, baby. If you've never followed along with it, that is what it seems like to be night in and night out.
Absolutely. Cole, your first year kind of doing this, covering games and everything. What was your take of that game, kind of game of the year so far for you guys and everything?
Yeah, I thought it was exactly that. I'm like, there's not a whole lot that could be better about this. Following Vermilion whole season, I mean, obviously it'd be better if Vermilion was on the winning side, but there's not often that you see 80-79 as a final score, and not only that, you get 8 extra minutes of basketball. I mean, I was talking to Heath a little bit before the game. I said this one's going to go to 5 quarters, and I said it as a joke, and it's because he mentioned something about the scoreboard not changing. I said it's going to go to 5 quarters. Well, sure enough, I was right. So I was right about one thing that day, and yeah, it's not something you see a whole lot, and luckily for me, that's actually my second double overtime game I've gotten to call this season. So it's been crazy following this team, and I got to give kudos to T area. Adam Shoresman, Mount Vernon alum, got to give him credit because we had about a 15-minute conversation before the game, and he was just relaxed. He was just there, enjoying the moment, saying anything could happen. So got to give kudos to him and the T area Lady Titans.
Yep, absolutely. And then before we shift focus to the boys, we do have some girls SODAC or some SODAC 16 qualifying games that need to play tonight. So we do have some, but there are some matchups set for the B girls SODAC 16, and those are Howard will play Wessington Springs, Castlewood will play Timberlake, and Jones County will play Centerville. So those games are set, and then the other ones will be official or set tonight after those other region games are finished up for Class A and Class B. So something to keep an eye on for everybody out there. Okay, let's talk about some boys action. Class A boys, down in where you guys are at, that Dakota Valley bunch is boy, they're kind of put on a show every time. Just a fun group to watch. Heath, when you look at Class A boys, you obviously got to start with Dakota Valley.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like do we want to play state? I mean, do we want to go through the whole entire process? If we want to, we can. I mean, if we want to just skip, we can play out the playoffs. We can get to the state tournament, and from there, hand Dakota Valley my title. And this is the reason I say that, because I love Sioux Falls Christian, Sioux Valley. I think there might be even a couple sleeper teams, but this was a Dakota Valley team that, with everything they had going on this season, everything was trending in the right direction. They were going for this record, be back to back. It doesn't happen, yada, yada, yada. And they've been playing great basketball. But in the past couple of weeks, they all of a sudden found another reason to be playing basketball. And that was Rosenquist Sr., Randy Rosenquist Jr., his father went down with a stroke. And all of a sudden, the whole entire narrative changed. It's not just playing basketball anymore. This is playing for a parent. This is playing for a guy who was part of the University of South Dakota for some time. This is a guy that has been always in love with his kids playing basketball. He stood by them. He's at every single sporting event, it seems like, for his kids. So Dakota Valley had all this to play for, and then all of a sudden it got personal, if you will. You added family into this, and it just gave them even more of a reason. And I thought this past Friday, they played against Lennox, and I thought that could be the game. Like, if there was a game, maybe it might be Lennox, who's been so hot this season. They hadn't lost in the month of January, February to a South Dakota team. I was like, that could be the game. 32-point win for Dakota Valley. And now it's like, all right, well, never mind on that one. I guess that was completely way off. So, yeah, I mean, if we want to play out Class A, we can, but I think it's Dakota Valley, no question in my mind. And even in the state tournament, I think so many teams are going to kill themselves just to get to Dakota Valley that it's going to be even more difficult for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about that record. The record you are referencing is Custer holds the Class A record for most consecutive wins in the, I believe, late 80s, 90s when the Custer Wildcats were rolling. So Dakota Valley will need 2 to tie that record and 3 more wins to break that record to get to 50, which would be a great accomplishment for those guys. But like you said, obviously playing for something bigger than basketball right now with Rosenquist Sr. and everything. Cole, whenever you look at Class A, safe to say Dakota Valley, you start with those guys, but who are some other teams you're kind of keeping your eye on here as postseason starts and everything?
Well, I definitely have Dakota Valley as my number one. And even in my notes over here, I say Region 4 is the region to watch, you almost say, because there's so many teams that if it wasn't just Dakota Valley at the top and then Lennox right behind them, that they could come out of that. Like you say, T and Beersford, they're going to play. Those are 2 good squads. And then Lennox, they're slated to play EPJ if everything plays out. That should be a good one as well. So that's kind of what I have there. And then other than that, I think a lot of it's just going to kind of go to chalk. And, you look at all these teams thinking, well, we've got to get to this point because we want to avoid Dakota Valley if we can. And then in the state tournament, you want to get there but not play them until all the way late. Like Heath said, they're going to kill themselves just trying to get to Dakota Valley to give them the chance to beat the team. So I think it's just Dakota Valley at the top. And other than that, I mean, you could put any other 7 teams in there. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of competition to follow.
Yeah, you look at Dakota Valley, because they beat the number 2 team, Sioux Falls Christian. They beat Sioux Valley, both pretty convincing margins, and beat a lot of, obviously being in the DAC-12, they're tested night in and night out. So they've obviously taken everybody's best punch and come out unbeaten to this point. I guess some regions I'm kind of looking at is out west, Region 8A. obviously St. Thomas More, you always got to start with those guys. But at the bottom of that bracket, Rapid City Christian and Hot Springs played here just recently. Rapid City Christian won that game, and though obviously they'll more likely play again. Rapid City Christian and Hot Springs. Rapid City Christian's a team that won the Lakota Nation Invitational earlier this year. Not a lot of people kind of talk about maybe some of those teams out west, but that's a team I would maybe kind of keep an eye on if they were to get past Hot Springs and get into the SODAC 16 and everything. Region 5A, kind of talked about that last week with the girls. It kind of feels the same thing with the boys. I think you have a lot of those teams that are all kind of right there, kind of about the same. So that could be fun. And then, like you said, Region 4A is Dakota Valley and Lennox, and a lot of those DAC 12 teams, so that'll be fun. And 3A, Sioux Falls Christian, Del Rapids, Madison, West Central, again, DAC 12 flavor and everything. I think that'll be a fun region to kind of keep an eye on. Heath, any other regions you're kind of looking at, I guess, this week?
No, I don't really necessarily look at any big regions. I just look ahead maybe to the SODAC 16, and if you will, depending on how things play out, if you pick like a sleeper, maybe that would be that one team that's like, oh, maybe we look by them. And they have to, of course, get out of their region. Del Rapids. I'm always a fan of Del Rapids, and I hate Del Rapids just because of how good they always seem to be during the postseason and what they're able to do. But Del Rapids would be one of my big sleeper teams that I could see them sneaking in at that 7 spot, 8 spot in the state tournament. All of a sudden, they got an upset along the way, and then maybe even causing some havoc in the state tournament. So I think Del Rapids would definitely be my sleeper. And then, yeah, just that game coming up on Friday. I really think everyone is already kind of nothing against Beersford. I love Beersford, but I think everyone's watching T area Dakota Valley just to see how that one's going to play out. That one might be the most test Dakota Valley sees until the state championship.
Yeah. If I had to go to a sleeper with Class A, I'd probably throw Winter into the mix.
Okay.
Winter just with one loss to a peer team, Class AA peer team, who's pretty good. I mean, they got a kid that's going to be playing Big Ten football here next year and everything, and some other good players. So I kind of keep an eye on Winter as we get rolling on here. Cole, you got any sleepers in Class A? And you can't say Mount Vernon Plank.
I can't.
No.
That was gonna be my whole thing. I picked my boys over an MVP, but then the only problem is right now they're projected to play Winter in the SODAC 16, so that'll be a tough matchup for them. But I still like them. And then I think a Heath pick back to Del Rapids. You can never count them out in the postseason, but the team they're gonna go up against in that Region 3 is Madison. They lost to Madison. Madison's got those big tall guys underneath, like 6'7" and 6'8". I nicknamed them the Twin Towers when Vermilion played up there, and that'll be a good matchup as well. But if Del Rapids can get past the region, like Heath said, they're going to be a dangerous team in the postseason.
Yep, absolutely. And then Class B, last year the narrative was DeSmet Bulldogs, and kind of everybody was playing for second, and DeSmet is obviously still in the mix again this year, led by Damon Wilkinson and some of those other guys who's gotten their opportunities this year to play some extended minutes. So DeSmet is right up there with a lot of these top teams, but it's going to be fun this year because I think B is obviously a little bit some parity. I don't think there's a clear-cut favorite. Bruley, Aberdeen Christian, DeSmet, White River, Faith, Castlewood, Viborg, and kind of go on and on and on. Class B is going to be fun here, Heath, as we get rolling.
Yeah, that's the class to watch for this year. And like you mentioned, it seemed like last year it was all DeSmet, and it's kind of like with Dakota Valley this year in Class A, hand them the trophy and let's just move on. It was kind of comes back to the girls of what we saw this year with Class B was, who do you like any given night? It seems like the standings have constantly been changing all season long. And with them playing in tournaments, the classics, no one has come out clean from this, and everyone has taken kind of multiple losses except for Faith, only one loss. Yeah, I don't know if this one is going to go to the favorites, if there is a favorite. I mean, just by seed points wise, Lower Burrell, White River. Can you get it done with two players? No offense. I mean, we see a bulk of their scoring is done by two players. I don't know if that's going to get it done. DeSmet, I would cross off DeSmet. We've already talked about how hard it is to repeat. So I don't know if you would count them as repeating. Aberdeen Christian has taken 2 tough losses this season against some formidable opponents. Are they the pick to go with? That would probably be the team I would circle this year as favorites to win it all, is Aberdeen Christian. But if you want to talk about the best basketball game and go back to Vermilion T area, get ready for the state tournament. I think you're just going to see games in and out every single night. It's definitely going to be a crapshoot. And even, and heck, you go as far as this, Galen Schoenfeld with Viber Curly, his Cougars. I don't know if really anyone counted the Cougars to be as good as they have been this year. A very, very young team that is just building as well. 17-3, never would imagine the Cougars to be that good this year. So this is going to be very, very interesting. Gregory, even an outside chance. I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited to hear your guys' opinions on who you guys think. But this one, if I had to circle somebody, Aberdeen Christian, but that's a very slight circle. Pencil it in so I can erase it quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Cole, when you look at Class B, what really stands out to you?
Well, I was just looking back to my notes and kind of going back to what Heath said is I think I've got 10 teams over here that say team to watch, and I've got 3 regions that say regions to watch. It's just all the games are going to seem like they're going to be good, and no matter what 8 teams get in, kind of what like Heath said, is it's just going to be wide open. I mean, it's going to be a great game after great game. Just some more specific regions, you might say Region 2, we talked about DeSmit and how hard it is to, repeat and come back after last season, but they've got a tough matchup against Wolsey Weston. Only beat them by 3 in the regular seasons. That one should be good to watch. Castlewood, James Valley Christian should be a solid game as well. And then Region 3, not a whole lot of people are talking about that Ethan squad. They play Del Rapids St. Mary, should be a good matchup there. And then Region 4, like he said, Viborg Hurley, they're going to be a great team. I mean, only 3 losses, Madison, Bridgewater, Emory, and Elk Point Jefferson. They're going to be another good team. And you can just keep going down the list and list each of these teams. I think there's going to be a lot of shock here in the playoffs come SODAC 16 state tournament time. I don't think any of these top teams are going to be able to get it done just because of how tightly contested Class B is this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, some of the regions, Region 3B, kind of, I'm familiar with a lot of those teams, watching a lot of them throughout the year. You talk to different coaches, and I know just even the seed points, and where they were going to be as far as first, second, or third, fourth. I mean, that was obviously something that you kept an eye on throughout the year. So you look at some matchups later in the week. You could have Ethan and against Del Rapids St. Mary's or Canastota. It could be a good game there either way. And then Howard and likely Bridgewater Emory. A couple of Corn Belt teams. That'll be a fun matchup. Region 5B, I feel is probably Gregory. Might be as obviously the 1 seed, the favorite there. But I think they could have a tough, interesting matchup with Trip Delmont Armor in the second round. I know they're kind of a team that's kind of flying under the radar. So I would kind of keep an eye out for that game. Like you said, Cole, that Region 2B with DeSmit and Wolsey and Castlewood and James Valley, that's kind of a similar region where teams were just kind of jockeying for position and who was going to come out of there as a top, 3-4 seeds and everything. So those will be a couple fun regions to keep an eye on here later in the week. I guess for a sleeper, I'll start with a sleeper for me in Class B. And you kind of talked about it earlier, Heath. Viber Curly, I just think, you hear that term, a year away, we're a year away. And maybe that's what, Viber Curly people were maybe saying about this crew coming into the season, that maybe they were just a year away. But boy, I've seen them a couple different times this year, and they're a good group. And like you said, Coach Galen Schoenfeld, he knows what he's doing. So if I had to pick a sleeper for Class B, I would probably say Viber Curly. What about you?
Yeah, and I hate to piggyback off that because I always like to be different from everybody else, but I have to agree. And I think what makes it really positive too is I look at a lot of these guys, and for me personally, a chance to also cover Viber Curly throughout the years. I look at their lineup and I go, gosh, haven't I said all these names before? And they go, yeah, you have. It was their older brothers that you may remember. Now, the younger guys that were waiting in the wings are now at this stage. So tested, if you will, and maybe not. Remember, they got close to the SODAC 16. They went up against a lower Burl that just took this. They said, watch out, we're just going to come with speed and just boom, blew right by you last year. but this is a lot different team and a lot younger team that does know what they're doing, or I should say with Coach Galen Schoenfeld there. So yeah, Viborg Curly is going to be my sleeper team that you got to watch out for this year.
Yep. Cole, we'll finish it off with you. Who you got for a sleeper?
Well, I hate to be the old college game day jinx where we go 3 for 3, but Viborg Curly was definitely one of my teams that we listed. So I'll go with one, and I think I've got two others here. Ethan maybe flying under the radar a little bit, 17-3, solid team down there. And then Trip Delmont Armor. I think that Trip Delmont Armor Gregory game should be a really good one down there. I watched them beat up on Freeman Academy Marion in the Great Plains Conference Classic, and that was that conference champion. They're a good squad down there, so I'm expecting big things from them. But we all know how my pick went last week, so I might go over 3, but that's just how it goes sometimes.
For those that don't know, last week we did this for girls, and Cole and I picked the sleeper for Class B, and that was Andy Central Dakota Christian, and they of course got eliminated by, of course, Costicny in their region. All right, with that, guys, I think we'll call that good. Again, this is going to be a fun week of basketball for everybody involved that loves high school basketball in South Dakota. We got regions and SODAC 16s this whole week and everything, so it's going to be a fun week. Make sure to follow Cole and Heath on LiveTicket.Tv and us on 605 Sports for all your coverage. Thanks, guys. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.